So welcome to our today class. So it is our first class actually. And we shall start from introduction part as we progresses. So the topic is, the book is economics. Economics. So I hope it is visible. So economics as our book. So before we start, I want to welcome everyone. This is our first class, so welcome everyone. Those who have managed to join. So we shall start with the meaning of the word economics. We shall start with the meaning of the economics. Then we see some basic concepts. Then we see some basic concept of economics. And then the difference between micro and macro economics. So that is all we shall do. So let us start with the definition of the word economics. So economics, it is a study of human behavior, how different people behave in different circumstances. So when we talk about economics, mostly we shall be talking about the behavior of individuals. So how different people tend to behave in a different circumstance. So let me write the definition here of economics. Now, it is a science. It is a science. It's a science. Science which studies human behavior. Which studies human behavior. Which studies human behavior. A science which studies human behavior. As relationship between ends. As relationship between ends. So ends, a relationship between ends and discuss. And discuss. And not scarce, let us use the word and scare mean and scare mean, which have alternative uses. Which have alternative uses. So this is the definition that we shall use. Let me elaborate further. We have said it's a science which deals with which studies human behavior as a relationship between end and scare mean and scare mean. Scare means, so scare means which have alternative ends. So we have two things here. We have the word end and we have the word scare. Scare means. We have two words there, ends and scare means. So let us see what's the meaning of the word ends before we conclude with the definition. So the word end means human wants. So the word ends means human wants. So the word ends means human wants. The word end means human wants. which can be goods or service. Which can be goods or services. So the meaning of the word end from our definition, it can means the word end, human wants, which can be either goods or service. Then you have the scare means, which means productive resources. Or that is not resource. It means resources. It means resources. So the word scare means resources, or you can also call them, factor of production. Factor of production. Factor of production. You can also call them factor of production. You can also call them factor of production. Now, we can now define our economics well. So we can say, and we can conclude and say that it is a science. It is a science which studies. It's a science which studies human behavior. Human behavior as a relationship between human wants, and resources, which are scarce, in nature. So the good definition we can use. So it is the science. It's a science which studies human behavior as a relationship between human want and the resources which are scarce in nature. Remember, everyone has wants. So we all have the desires. But for us to maximize the desire, we need the resources. But resources are scarce, and therefore we need to choose an optimal way to utilize our wants. So that's where economics comes in. So the study of the human wants and the resources which are scarce in nature. We can also continue and say economics can be described. So we can also add this one, another something. Economics can be described. Economics can be described as a science subject. It can also be described as a science subject, which try to explain human behavior, which tries to explain human behavior, which tries to explain human behavior concerning how best to allocate resources. Concerning how best to allocate resources. So that is another definition. So how best to allocate resources among competing uses. So that is all about economics. So what you need to remember if you get such kind of a question in an exam for you to explain or to define what is economics, then one of the things you should answer is it is a science. So a science or a subject as a science as a subject that is used to do what? To monitor human behavior and how human behavior can use the resources, the available resources which are scarce, in order to satisfy their needs. So the science which is used to study the behavior of humans on how to allocate the resources which are scarce in nature in order to satisfy their needs. So it deals with satisfaction, how human beings or how people can satisfy their wants when the resources are scarce. That one is fine. That one is fine for that definition. So that is the general definition of economics. I think that one is a good definition. So you need to remember the behavior of the human, how they behave in different circumstances when it comes to utilization of resources. Basic concept. So basic concept of economics. So basic concept of economics. So remember, when you talk about the basic concept, still we shall be focusing on the scarcity, because the economics is there because of the issue of scarcity. If the resources were abundant, or if resources ingekuwa ni mingi, ukienda mahali unapata pesa ni mingi, ama kila mahali pesa iko, ama ukienda mahali mambo na products ziko, so ziko yani zinatosha kila mtu na zinabaki, then the issue of economics could not be there. But because those items are hard to find, and we need to sacrifice most of the things in order to acquire such item, then we need to study how to allocate the resources, and therefore the economics comes in. So it is the study of scarce resources. So you can also define economics as the study of scarce resources, but it is within the definition. When you talk about human behavior and how well to utilize the resources, then we have covered the study of the scarcity. Anyway, so the scarcity comes in because of our resources are not there. So I'm going to do away with this one. So basic concepts that we need to know. So basic concept. So basic concept. So basic concept. So kama unatumia simu, don't auto-rotate your phone. So kama unatumia simu, kindly don't auto-rotate your phone, so that utaona vizuri. If you auto-rotate, you might miss some item. Anyway, so basic concept. So one of the basic concepts is the word economy. Economy as one of the basic concept. Economy, and we can define economy as a particular system of organization of the economic activity. So this one can be defined as a particular system So it can be defined as a particular system of organization of economic activity. Of economic activities. So that is the meaning of the word economy. So economy refers to a particular system of the organization of economic activity, i.e., a good example of this kind of a system is production. So production, when goods are being produced in a manufacturing sector. So that one is a system also. We have distribution. Once the goods has been produced, then distribution is done. Then we have exchange also. This one is within the market. Exchange and consumption. And consumption. So exchange and consumption of all things. Of all the things required to satisfy human wants. Required to satisfy human wants. So that system that allow production, allow distribution, and also allow consumption of goods to reach the consumer so that the consumer can satisfy their want, that system is what we call the economy. So that's is a system of the organization of the economic activities. So it allows all these activities from production to distribution up to consumption by the consumer in order to satisfy their wants. So that system that allows such kind of a scenario, we call it the economy. So it is made up of many things. Number two, we have goods and service, another basic concept. That one is number one. Number two, goods and services. It's another basic concept. So in economics, the term goods refers to physical material, things. So we start with the definition of the word goods. And we say, so in economics, good refers to material. It refers to material or so when we talk about goods, it refers to material, or it can also refer to physical things. Physical things. So goods refers to material or physical things, which can be seen or touched to satisfy human want. Which can be seen or touched to satisfy human wants. Now, anything which can be seen and touched and at the same time satisfy human wants, that one can be categorized as good. For example, mkate. So mkate unaweza iona, unaweza iguza, na pia unaweza ukikula, then you satisfy the need of eating the mkate. So that is the definition of the word good. So anything which can be seen or can be touched, i.e., we can put the word food item as one of the example of a good. We can also put a car. We can also put what? Shoes, if you want. Also, that one is a good. And remember, a good also must be anything which is scarce in nature, meaning you need another resource to acquire it. For example, food item, you need money. So money as a good also is an example. So, but remember, anything which is scarce, meaning you need to struggle or to strive in order to acquire it, we can categorize it as a good. But it can be seen and touched, and at the same time, it can satisfy the want of a person and any other thing. Now, let us define the word economic good, because you can find it in an exam. You can be asked to define what is economic goods. So economic good, these are goods which have price and the production require resources. That one is very correct. Goods which, these are goods which have price which have prices. So kama ukienda kwa supermarket unaona kuna tag, so unapata kuna kitu imewekwa pale chini, price tag, so it must have a price. So kwa supermarket anything which unaipata pale ndani is categorized as economic good because already it has the price in it. So economic good is a good which have price, which have prices, and the production require resources, and the production requires resources. For example, ukienda kwa supermarket uone kitu kama mkate, na wacha nitumie mkate juu mkate ndio inakuja kwa akili sana. So if you go to the supermarket utaona mkate iko na price tag. That price tag makes it an economic good. And then the fact that we need an input to produce the mkate, which input we need wheat and some other kind of materials so that tufike kwa hiyo mkate. So because it also requires some other resources in order to come up with that mkate, then also that one makes it an economic good. So number one, it has a price in it, and number two, it requires resources. Na nimesema kwa mkate, the resource that we require to make a mkate is wheat and other items pale na pale zinachanganywa and so on. So that one becomes an economic good. Then we have non-economic good. Non-economic good. So when we talk about an economic good, we can easily say these are the things that are unlimited in supply. These are things which are unlimited in supply. So these are the things which are unlimited in supply, meaning they are abundance. Ukienda mahali unazipata. For example, the air we breathe. So the air we breathe is a good example of an economic good. So and can be obtained without paying a price, and can be obtained without paying a price. And i.e., we can say the air. So the air is a very good example. Air is a very good example of, and also we need vitamins from the sun. So let us call it sunshine. Sunshine. I think that one is also correct. I don't know if the word sunshine is the good word, but that one is also abundance, meaning it is there, so we don't need to pay for it. Also the air. So anything which does not have a price tag, and it does not require resources to produce it. For example, air. So we don't know which resource. Wanasemanga ni miti, tupande miti, but the air will still be there in either way. So we don't need resources to survive. So for example, we don't need any resource to be attached to the air so that we can survive. Also the sunshine. Also the sunshine comes every day, so that it does not require any resource. So with that case, we can categorize it as a good example of non-economic good. If air was non-economic good, majority of the people now, sijui tungekuwa wapi, because if it could be an economic good, ni kumaanisha everyone could be struggling to acquire it. Anyway, let us go to the next term. So number one, it was the economy. Number two was goods and service. Then you have number three. Sorry, before we go to number three, we have this one, service. Service. So let me do away with the upper part so that we can define the word service. So service. Service. Now let us define what is service. So when you talk about service, we mean so economic service. Let us define the word economic service. Let me see. We don't have any good example here. So this we can say these are goods. So we can use the term, which term? We can say these are other item other than goods and services, other than goods. So any other item which is not categorized as good, then that item shall be categorized as a service, i.e., and remember, service cannot be seen. Cannot be seen. Remember, i.e., it cannot be seen. Example, we can have teaching as a service. We can have banking as a service. We can also have what? Tourism as a service. We can also have what else? We can also have insurance and legal services. So these are other items other than goods, so which cannot be seen, so you cannot see them. So examples, we have teaching, banking, tourism, insurance, and legal services. Another definition we can use, we can say it refers to economic activities. It refers to economic activities. It refers to economic activities other than manufacturing. So it refers to economic activities other than manufacturing or primary goods production or primary goods production. That one is fine. So that is the definition of the word a service. So it refers to economic activities other than manufacturing or primary goods production. So anything which is not categorized as a good production, then you shall categorize it as a service. Okay, let us continue. Okay, let me do away with this one. I'm going to do away with this one. So I hope umeandika. The next one, number 3. So number 3, it is the word resource. A resource. So a resource. So number 3. A resource. So a resource. Then let us define what is a resource. And you can say A resource are things which are combined in a numerous way to produce goods and service required to satisfy a human want. So any combination in numerous way is what we can call it a resource. Let us define it here and say these are things. These are things. So these are things combined in numerous way. Combined in numerous way. So combined in numerous ways to produce goods and service. To produce goods and services. Produce goods and services required to satisfy human wants. Required to satisfy human want. Okay, so those things which are used in production. So those items or those things which are used in production is what we call them. Is what we call them a resource. So we use them for the purpose of producing something. So when we talk about resources, we're talking about something that is used to produce something else. So either to produce a good or a service. And that service or that good purpose, it is there to satisfy human want. So that kind of a thing that is used to produce other thing is what we call a resource. It is what we call a resource. They can also be called factor of production. So it can also be called, so a resource can also be termed, can also be, let me use the word called, also be called factor of production. So because in factor of production is where we need the input. So when we talk about factor of production, we have something like input, we have labor, people. So a person also working in a production, that person is a resource person. So we can categorize labor as a resource. We have input like raw material. So raw material to make a part of production, that is also a resource. And other thing which is used in production. So examples, let us do some example. It can be classified as follows. It can be classified as follows. Number A, natural resource. Natural resource. So it can be classified number one as natural resource. Let's define it. So when we talk about natural resource, we're talking about all the gift of nature. So when we talk about natural resource, we're talking about all the gift of nature. So we can say this refers to all the gift of nature. Refers to all the gift of nature, i.e. arable, land, water. What else? We can categorize them as gift, a gift of nature, apart from land and water. We can have fishing ground, fishing ground. We can also have forests. We can have forests. We can also have solar energy also, because that is a gift from the sun. So it's a gift from the sun, because if you don't have the sun, then we don't have the solar energy. And then also we can have hydroelectric power. Now this one is a gift from water. So the water as it turns the turbine, we get electricity. So it is because of the water. We can also have the hydropower from the wind also, I think so. So because of the wind, that one also formed part of the gift of nature. So those are the examples. So another term, they can also be called, apart from calling them natural resource, they can also be called, so if you don't want to call them natural resource, you can call them land. You can call them land in economics. So kama ukiona the word land in economics, then just know they are talking about natural resource. So if you see the word land in economics, then you just know they are talking about natural resource. Okay. So that is one. That is number one as a resource. Number two, we have the human resource. These are the people. Human resource. So human resource as the people. So human resource as the people, and we say this refers to human effort. So it refers to human efforts. So this refers to human efforts in production process. In production process. So in short, the people, hao watu wanafanya kazi kwa production, kuna hiyo nguvu wanaipeleka pale, so wanatumia their efforts ama kulingana na uwezo wao wanafanya kazi. So hiyo kazi wanafanya, that one is termed as human resource. Either be it physical, anatumia nguvu yenye ni physically, or be it anatumia the mind. So whichever way, as long as it is there for production process, then that one we shall categorize it as human resource, either physically or not physically. Okay. So which, so we can say it include, you can say it include mental ability, and skills. And also it also include, it can include physical ability and skills. Can also include physical ability and skills. So when a person is working, it is either anatumia nguvu yake, that is the physical appearance, or anatumia the mental capacity. That one is through thinking and so on. So anatumia that one to help in production. So that is all about human. So another one, C, haraka, we can talk about capital. Capital as another way of classifying a resource. So capital as another way of classifying a resource. So make sure your phone is not tilted. So make sure your phone is not tilted so that you can see. So capital. So when we talk about capital, we're talking about money-made resource. Those are the money-made resource. So anything money-made, for example, a road, a building, a laptop, because a laptop is used also for production. You can use a laptop for production. Unaweka amount yenye unataka kutengeneza, then unafinya button inakupatia the exact amount you need. So inakufanyia kazi haraka. You don't need to go kwa ground upime. So yenyewe inafanya. So that one is also money-made. A laptop is also money-made, which is used in production. And any other thing which is money-made. So let us say, so these include all the money-made resource used in production. i.e., tunasema road, building. So building where the production takes place. So that building we categorize as that one. Dams, we have dams and equipments. And any other thing, and equipment and any other thing which can be termed as capital. You can also include machines. So you can also add machine. Machine is also an example. So machine is also an example of a capital. So machine is also an example for capital of a capital. Okay, I think that one is fine. Let's go to the next item. The next basic concept. So the next basic concept we can say is entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship as another concept of a resource. Entrepreneurship. So I'm going to do away with this kwanza hapa. So entrepreneurship, number D. This one here is supposed to be entrepreneurship. Now, an entrepreneurship inatokana from the word entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a person who carry out a business. So entrepreneur is a person who carry out a business. When we talk about entrepreneurship, so what will be the word entrepreneurship itself is a business. So the word entrepreneurship itself is a business and not a person. But when we talk about an entrepreneur, we mean as a person. So you can say the entrepreneurship is the process of coordinating a business by an entrepreneur. We can say process of coordinating a business by an entrepreneur or by the owner, by an entrepreneur. So the process of conducting a business by an entrepreneur is what we call the entrepreneurship. So which item does this person coordinate? It involves coordination of factor of production. So it involves coordination of factor of production. You can also argue that entrepreneurship is the process of gathering resources by an entrepreneur in order to maximize the needs of people. So you gather the required resource and start a business for the purpose of satisfying the need of the customer. So that one can also be termed as a entrepreneurship. So the process of gathering necessary and available resources in order to start a business for the purpose of satisfying the need of the customer. So we can write that also definition here as it is the process of gathering necessary and available resources So it's the process of gathering necessary and available resources. The process of gathering necessary and available resources in order to start a business. To start a business for the purpose. With the purpose of, so number one, we've got two purposes. Number one, making profits and satisfy human want. That one could be the reasons. So that one can also be defined as entrepreneurship. So that one can also be defined. So that one can also be defined as entrepreneurship. So I hope that one is visible. So tumesema that is the process of gathering necessary and available resources in order to start a business for the purpose of making profit and at the same time to satisfy the needs of the people. So that one is the definition of entrepreneurship. That one is the last one. So not the last one. That one is the last one under resource. That one is the last one under resource. So that marks the last chapter for resource. Let's go to another term, utility. Utility. So utility is another basic concept. So utility as another basic concept. So utility. So utility. So utility, and we can say this is an economic term for satisfaction and the need fulfillment that people derive from consumption, use of a material, goods, or service. So we can say this is the ability. This is the ability of individual to satisfy human wants from a particular goods or service. So this is the ability. So this is the ability. This is the ability of an individual to satisfy their human want. To satisfy their human want. So utility refers to the ability of an individual to satisfy their human want. Okay, from a particular goods or service. So that one is from a particular good or service. That one is fine. That is the definition of utility. We go to the next definition. Another definition is cateris. Cateris paribus. Cateris cateris paribus. So cateris paribus, we can say it's a Latin phrase which means all other things being equal. So it is a Latin word which means all other things being equal. All other things being equal. So it refers to all other things being equal. And then you can continue and say, the categories paribus assumption is more commonly used in economic theory. So this phrase is usually used in economic theory to isolate the effect of a change in one variable or influencing factor. You can write that one down. You can say, let's write it here. You can say it is used. So it is used. So it is used in economic theory It is used in economic theory to isolate the effect of, to isolate the effect, to isolate the effect of a change in one variable, of a change in one variable, or influencing factor, or influencing, or influencing factor. So it is used in economic theory to isolate the effect of change in one variable or the influencing factor. i.e., this means or other variable utaonyesha tu sahi, or other variables or determining factor or determining factor held constant So this means or other variable or determining factor held constant, i.e., this is what I mean. For example, we have this kind of an equation: y is equals to 10 plus 2x plus 3y. So if we have such kind of an equation, and then we are told to explain the equation. So we have such kind of a problem, and we are told to explain the equation. How do we explain the equation? So we shall use the principle of the assumption of ceteris paribus, i.e., if x increases with 1 unit, y will increase by 2. So the 2 because of the 1 unit, holding other factors, i.e., z, holding other factor z constant. So even though that one is the principle of the ceteris paribus. Okay, that is all. about the categories paribus. Also, you can explain it in this way. If Z increases by 1 unit, Y will increase with the same margin, holding other factors, i.e. X constant. That is what we mean. So holding other constants. So if we try to manipulate X, we hold Z constant. So, or if we try to manipulate Z, we hold X constant. So one item at a time. So the categories paribus. So why, if we are taking the factor which is influencing Y in form of X, then we do what? We concentrate with X and how X influences Y. Then we hold Z constant. Or if we want to see how Z affect Y. So what happened when Y increased by 1 unit? What will happen to Y? Holding X constant. That is all we mean by the categories paribus. Then the last term here. Let us talk about the last term. The last term that we need from the basic concept. I think it's the second last, not last, second last. We have rational behavior. Rational behavior. Rational behavior. So all these items zipata kwa mtihani, so make sure you are very keen. So tukiongea about rational behavior, a person who is rational in nature. So a person who is rational in nature will tend to do things that it is best in their knowledge. So for example, kama ni mimi, nitafanya kitu yenye ninaona it is good for me. So siwezi, yani ni kama niko self-centered somehow, yani nafanya yani kujinufaisha. So a person who is rational in nature tend to do something that will satisfy their need. So anaweza kwanza ku think about the effects on other person. So whatever he does satisfy their need regardless of the effect on other people. Now let us define according to economics. Let us define it according to economics. Okay, when define it according to economics, this is the definition of rational behavior. And we say, so refers to behavior in which economic agents i.e. individual, we can also have firms and government, so refers to the behavior in which the economic agents, i.e. individual, firm, and governments, do the best they can under given circumstance. Do the best they can under given circumstance. That is all about a rational, the meaning of the word rational behavior. So it refers to a behavior in which an individual, a firm, or a government do the best they can under given circumstance. The best they can under which circumstance which satisfy their need. So the government, for example, will do the best they can to raise more taxes. That is the best for them. A firm will do the best they can to maximize their profit. That is also a form of rational behavior. An individual will act in a manner to satisfy their need. That one is also form of a rational behavior. I think that one is enough. Don't need to write so much. Don't need to write so much. So for example, when you talk about an individual for rational behavior, so an individual would prefer this kind of good that will cost him less. So any person who is rational will prefer that kind of good that will cost him less amount of money and at the same time satisfy their need. So for example, if you want to do an example here, example, an individual. So this, in case of computer, you give also an example. You can also give such kind of an example. An individual in his purchasing decision, so an individual in his purchasing decisions will do what? Will always prefer. Will always prefer less. Will always prefer less in terms of cost or more of basket of goods that will satisfy their need. So any person who is rational in nature will prefer such kind of a scenario. So any person who is rational in nature will prefer such kind of a scenario. So any person who is rational in nature will prefer such kind of a scenario, to pay less and at the same time to have more goods that will satisfy their need. So that is correct. So hata mimi nikienda sokoni naweza prefer ninunue vitu mingi kwa pesa kidogo na hiyo kitu is satisfy my need. So that is all about us people. Then the last definition we need to see, let me see. Okay, let us define these two items here, stock and flow. Stock and flow. But in economics, so ukienda kwa another book, utapata the word stock has a different meaning. So we start with the stock, and we say refer to the variable which has no time dimension. Refers to the variable which has no time dimension. So refers to the variable which has no time dimension. For example, if we have 100 bags of, if tuko na store na tuko na 100 bag of what? Of sugar. So this 100 bag of sugar hatujui the time dimension itakuwa hapo. So inaweza nunuliwa leo yote ishe. Unaweza kana wiki kama 3 hazijanunuliwa. So that variable has no defined time dimension. So such kind of an item we call it a stock. So a stock, ukiona stock mahali, when we define it in form of economics, ni kumaanisha that stock you can stay with it for a long period of time depending with the situation or with the circumstance, or you can say it, you can stay with it for a very short period of time. So depending, that's why I say it's a variable which has no time dimension. So today unaweza kuwa na 100 bag of sugar uuze leo zote. Another time you can have the 100 bag of sugar and then you stay with it in the store for quite a very long time. So that one is what we call a stock. But in when you shall be doing something to do with management accounting, we shall define stock as a resource that is in the store. Anyway, for now we stick with the economics because we are in the economics class. Then we have a flow. And then when we talk about flow, refers to the quantity in economics, refers to quantity in economics, refers to the quantity in economics, quantity in economics measured over a particular period of time, measured over particular period of time. So that is in economics. So any quantity in economics that is measured over a particular period of time is what we call a flow. A good example, if we have that 100 bags of sugar yenye tulikuwa tunasema hapa kwa stock, so tunasema that item in form of a stock is a variable which has no definite time dimension. Now, when it comes to flow, assume that today umeuza a particular items of those bags. So that item yenye imetoka is what we call the flow, which is a measure of the quantity of those materials in a particular period of time. So remember, wakati zinatoka, for example, unauza, there is item yenye inatoka, kuna yenye inabaki. So the meaning of the word flow, it means the measure of that process of moving goods from the person holding the goods to the person buying it. So that one is what we call the flow. So it refers to the quantity in economics measured over a particular period of time. So that measure of the flow of goods from time to time, so we call the flow. So inatoka from a producer to a consumer. So this one is what we call the flow. So it measures the quantity of materials in a particular period. So that is what we call the flow. So the measure of how goods moves from one person to another over a particular period of time. So that measure is what we call the flow. Now, once those are the examples of the basic concepts of economics. Those are very important concepts of economics, and therefore those will form the basis of this topic, especially the categories paribus. So especially the categories paribus and the rational behavior. So those items shall be used in various occasions as we progresses. Anyway, now let us introduce the concept of micro and macroeconomics. The concept of micro and macroeconomics. So this is another concept of micro and macro economics. So the concept of micro and macro economics. Let us start with the microeconomics. So remember, when we talk about microeconomics, we are talking about the individual units in an economy. So when we study the individual units in an economy, then we are studying the microeconomics. And then when we are studying the economic as a whole, or the aggregate of the economy, then we are talking about macroeconomics. So that's the difference between the two. One is the individual units, the other one is the aggregate, the aggregate as a whole. So let us start with the microeconomics. So let us start with microeconomics. And we say it is concerned, it is concerned with specific segment, with specific segment. It is concerned with specific segment of the economy, It is concerned with the specific segment of the economy, particularly behavior of individual consumer, particularly behavior of individual, particularly behavior of individual consumer and farm or group of farm. In the industry. That one is correct. So when we say we are studying a specific segment of individual and consumer in farms within the industry, then we are talking about the microeconomics. i.e. examples of microeconomics: theory of price determination, theory of price determination. So theory of price determination, that one is the theory of demand and supply. So the forces of demand and supply. So the forces of demand and supply is what determine the price. So when we talk about the theory of price, we might be talking about demand and supply as one of them. So we have other, but mostly we can say demand and supply as the theory of price determination. We can also talk about consumer behavior, the theory of consumer behavior. So when we talk about the theory of consumer behavior, we're talking about the utility of how individuals and firms satisfy their utilities or their wants. So tutaongelea kuhusu marginal utility, total utility, that one is under consumer behavior, the indifference curve, and so on. So that one is also microeconomics. So it study consumer behavior. Another example, the theory of production. The theory of production. So the theory of production, under the theory of production, remember also, is a microeconomics concept because we're talking about the inputs, the production function. So how much input do we need to achieve a particular output? So that is the production function, the law of diminishing return, the law of return. We have the cost functions, market structure. We can categorize them as a theory of production. And the last one, and welfare economics. This one will be the last topic under microeconomics. So under microeconomics, this one will be the last topic for microeconomics before we get into macro. So we start with the demand and supply. We go to consumer behavior. So we go to production, theory of production, then tunamalizia economic, welfare ama welfare of the economy. Tukishamaliza hiyo, then the next item now we shall introduce is macroeconomics. So let us define what is macroeconomics. Na tulikuwa tumesema it's the study of the economic as a whole, or the aggregate of the economy as a whole. So when we combine this industry now, so when we combine the industries as a whole and not as individual, then so remember here we can define macroeconomics as individual within the industry, consumer within the industry, and firms within the industry. But we can also study the industry as a whole with other industries. So that one is what we call it macroeconomics. So we study the industry as a whole and not industry as a part of industry to just one industry. So macro is the study of the economic as a whole, is the study of economy as a whole. Or unaweza sema pia is the study of the aggregate economics. You can also say the study of the aggregate economics, the study of aggregate economics. So hey, let us continue. It emphasizes it emphasizes on aggregate economic variable So it emphasizes on aggregate economic variable such as. So this is what we shall do when we shall be doing microeconomics. Number one, i.e. level of employment. Level of employment. What else? Total income and output. Total income and output. Total money supply. Total money supply. Total money supply. Government spending. Government spending. Level of taxes. Level of taxes. Level of taxes. Savings. And so on. So when we study the economy as a whole, then we shall be talking about the level of employment as the main problem. Remember, also when we talk about macroeconomics, we shall be talking about the problems in the economy, and one of them is employment. So employment as a whole, because if there is an issue in employment in an economy, then that issue affects the economy as a whole and not as an individual. And then if the Central Bank of Kenya want to pump money in the economy, then they shall consider the level of money supply in the economy and not as an individual. Wawezi kuja waangalie bank account yako wasema uko na hii pesa sasa hatuwezi supply. They shall check what is the effect of the total money that has been supplied in the economy before they pump any money in the economy. Government spending. So remember, the government spend on various infrastructure within the economy. So it is spending as a whole and not as an individual. So the government cannot come and spend to a person to help that person. They spend on aggregate economy. If it is constructing roads, so that road that is coming from Nairobi to Eldoret, or from Eldoret to Mombasa, that road will serve the whole economy. And therefore, government spending also is categorized as aggregate economy. Taxes also the same way. So everyone is being taxed, whether you are from which part or whichever part. So you pay tax as, so you do, as much as you are paying as an individual, that amount is aggregated together with other people so that we have a collective amount of tax. So that one is an aggregate amount. Also, savings is categorized as an aggregate form of a problem in an economy. So the more the people get the income, the more they might save and so on. So remember consumption also. When we talk about consumption and so on, it's also form part of aggregate economics. So someone is saying the board is not clear. Is it clear now? Someone to respond. Is the board clear? But Sijarab, what we were talking about micro and macroeconomics, stay the same item. So, but I think it is now clear. So, so those are the two differences. So those are the two differences that you might find in an exam. They can tell you to define or to differentiate between micro and macroeconomics. So remember, when you talk about microeconomics, you are talking about individual level units in an economy. So individual level units in an economy. Then when you talk about the macroeconomics, we are talking about the aggregate economy so the aggregate, so the economy as an aggregate or the economy as a whole. Okay. That one is the difference between the two. So we are about to. So let us talk about basic problems in an economy, and then we shall continue from after this part. We shall continue tomorrow from basic problem. So let us introduce the basic problem in an economy. So basic problem in an economy. So one of the basic problem in Ghana that one Jamini. So basic problem in a economy. The basic problem. Let us see. Basic problems. Basic economic problems. So in an exam, unaweza kwambia you state any basic economic problem. So let us take them before we talk about them. We have scarcity. Number 2, we have choice. Number 3, we have the scale of preference. Number 4, we have the opportunity cost. And then you have the production possibility curve. PPC. So those are some of the economic problems. So those are the basic economic problems that you might find. We have others. We have other basic economic problems, like, for example, employment, economic growth. But that one we shall do it later. So let us concentrate with this one. So let's start with the scarcity. Scarcity, and we say, when we talk about scarcity, economic scarcity means that people do not have as much as they desire. So economic scarcity means people do not have as much they can desire. Do not have much as they can desire. Kwa sababu ni scarce, yani hakuna. So hakuna, kumaanisha hakuna. So you desire, but you don't have that much to have it. So that is what we call the scarce. For example, resource. So you might need a particular resource to do a particular project. So you desire that kind of a resource to do that project, but you don't have it because it is scarce in nature. And then how does the scarcity arise? So in an example, you explain the concept of scarcity. So in an example, you explain the concept of scarcity. Now I'm 4 marks. So 4 marks will give a definition with the all the marks. So you need to add some item. So this one is what you can add. The problem of scarcity. The problem of scarcity arises as a result. So the problem of scarcity arises as a result of the fact, that at any point of time, the productive resources available, the productive resources available in society are limited. Are limited. So that is how the problem of scarcity arises. So the problem of scarcity arises because of the fact that at any time or at any period of time, the resources which are productive are limited. Kumaanisha ni ngumu kuzipata. They are very, very limited. And therefore the problem of scarcity arises. So it arises because we don't have resources, or because the resources are limited in supply, or because the resources are limited in supply. That one is correct. Whereas we can add this one, are limited in supply. Whereas human want is unlimited. Now, this one is very correct. Now, human wants are unlimited. Kumaanisha, kama ni mimi, for example, ninasoma, ninahitaji kukula. So this one is a want, which is unlimited. So ninataka kukula, ninataka school fees, ninataka sijui nini. So human wants are many. So unaweza you have a lot of needs, but the resources are scarce, or they are limited. So uko na mahitaji mingi, lakini resources ni kidogo. So kulingana na hiyo, kunakuwa na what we call the problem of scarcity. So it arises because at any point of time, production resources are limited. So resources ni kidogo, but human wants are endless, meaning your wants haitawaisha. They are endless, they are unlimited, haitawaisha. leo utasolve school fees, lakini ukumbuke pia tena kuna next term kama ni mwanafunzi ama uko na mtoto, so next time pia kumbuke kuna hiyo school fees na itakuja. So they are limited. Kama ni kukula leo, uweze sema tunakula leo, kesho utakula, kesho kutwa hivyo hivyo. So those things will keep on coming. So the human want will keep on coming, but the resources will keep on decreasing. So at whichever point of time, hata sijaisikia mtu akisema tangu nizaliwe, sijaisikia mtu akisema eti ukienda kuambia mtu, for example, hata ukienda kwa mzazi umwambie mambo, for example, na mahitaji fulani, anakuambia pesa hakuna. Hakuna siku utaisikia mahali umeambiwa pesa iko. It is very very rare. Hata hakuna pesa mingi aje, kumaanisha the resource, that resource is always scarce in nature. Na ukicheza cheza kidogo kidogo, that resource inaisha haraka. So there is need to utilize that kind of a resource, and therefore tunasema human wants are limited, but the resources ni kidogo. So that one is the problem of scarcity. I think that one, with that one, I think the explanation is good. So make sure your phone is not tilted. So make sure you don't put your phone in auto rotate. Anyway, I think that one is well explained. I think this one is well explained. Now, let us see some other item. Okay, let's talk about the 4 fundamental questions which comes because of scarcity. So now navuta ya juu. So we are still under scarcity. We are still under scarcity. So fundamental question. Fundamental questions. Hiyo unaweza kwa mtihani. This one is very common. Of scarcity. So what are those fundamental questions? So in an exam, when you state, they can tell you to state. They can state any 4 fundamental questions of scarcity. So they can tell you to state any 4 fundamental questions of scarcity. So let us name them. Number 1, what is to be produced? Number 1, what is to be produced? So that is one of the questions. That is one of the fundamental questions of scarcity. So in an exam, you state any 4 fundamental questions when it comes to scarcity. Wanaanza kutumia the word scarcity, wakwambie state any 4 fundamental question in economics. It's the same. So but zinatokananga na scarcity because the resources are scarce in nature. So number 1, what is to be produced? So what is to be produced? So tukikuja kwa what is to produce, what we need to say is every society must determine in some manner what goods and service and how much of each to produce during a given period of time. So how much should we produce at a given period of time? So this is how you are supposed to say. Every society must determine. Every society must determine in some manner. So every society must determine in some manner what goods and service and how much of each to produce during a given time. So that one is correct. So that is the question number 1. That is the question number 1. So what is to be produced? And tumesema So every society must determine in some manner what goods to produce. So ni nini hiyo tunataka kuproduce? So they need to determine in a particular society what is the need. What kind of a need do we have? Do we need so that we produce? So what good should we produce? And how much of each good to produce? So in what quantity, in short? So in what quantity should we produce? Let's go to the next question, which you might find. How is the output to be produced? So ukishajua, so tukijiuliza what is to be produced, tukishajua nini tunataka kuproduce, then tutapataje hiyo output of that produce tumechagua? So how should we get the output to be produced? And we say each farm must decide how to combine the input. So hapa, so each farm must decide the input, to achieve optimal resource allocation. So which combination of inputs should we use in order to produce a particular output? So that is all about it. So which combination, so tutatumia kiasi gani ya material ndio tuweze kukuja na ile goods yenye tunataka. So ndio tunasema each farm has decided the input to achieve the optimal allocation of a resource. Number 3, for whom to produce. So another question unafaa kujiuliza, hawezi to produce for bila reason. So una produce iende wapi? So lazima ukuwe umejiuliza, yes na produce, lakini na produce kwa nini? Inaenda wapi? So for whom to produce? For whom to produce? So this is another question which you need to answer. So for whom to produce, na tuseme, so that is which category of consumer. So which category of consumer is the good being produced? Is the goods being produced? So lazima ukuwe umespot your consumers. So lazima ukuwe umespot your consumers or your customers. Lazima ukuwe umespot your customers. So huwezi sema una produce lakini hujui utauzia nani. So lazima ukuwe umespot that there is a market somewhere. So for whom to produce? So that is the consumer. And then ya mwisho, which is the last one, how to facilitate future growth. So how to facilitate future growth? So how to facilitate future growth? And then we say, so hapa tunaweza sema, this is what you can say, the resources must be utilized. The resources must be utilized. The resources must be utilized at a rate that would at a rate that that would enhance future productive possibility. That would enhance future. That will enhance future production possibility. That one is correct. So once you have solved those four problems, now for the future growth, you need to choose that kind of a resource that that will be utilized in order to open other opportunities in the future. So that's how to facilitate growth. So upon producing that good for your consumer, it must be also be possible to do what? To open doors for other opportunities in future. So it must facilitate the future growth. So that one is number one, the scarcity. So the scarcity. Then you have choice. Okay, before we do away, let us write here NB. You kama inaonekana, but I hope inaonekana. So make sure you don't out-rotate your phone. Now, scarcity is most fundamental So scarcity is the most fundamental problem facing every society. Problem facing every society. So that one is correct. Scarcity is the most fundamental problem facing every society. Kila mara ukienda, watu wanasema hakuna pesa, hakuna resources, hakuna nini. So it is the most fundamental. It affects everyone in every place. So the little that mtu ako nayo, they have to utilize that something effectively. And then what tunasema, it is the most fundamental problem facing every society. Hata uende dunia gani ama dunia gani, the problem of scarcity must always be there. And therefore we need to do what? To come up with a solution on how to do what? To utilize this kind of resource. And then we also continue and say, if the resources are not scarce, if the resource are not scarce, so tulikuwa nasema if the resource are not scarce, if the resource are not scarce, goods and service will not be scarce. Goods and services will not be scarce. Hiyo ni ukweli. That one is correct. If the resources are not scarce, for example, kama resources are still scarce, ni kumaanisha also the goods and service will not be scarce. That one is very, very correct. And therefore, and there will be no need, and there will be no need to economize. Sio ni kweli? Kama nadanganya? I think ni kweli. If goods were not scarce, if the resources zingekuwa ni mingi, ni kumaanisha pia goods and services zingekuwa ni mingi. Kama resources ni mingi, ni kumaanisha goods and services zingekuwa pia ni mingi. Na kwa sababu ya hiyo, hakungekuwa na issue ya ku-economize in an economy. But because goods are not scarce, ni kumaanisha resources are also not scarce, and therefore we need to do what? To economize. So we need to economize so that we can save on the small that we have. That one is what we are talking about. So if the resources are not scarce, then goods and services will not be scarce, and therefore there will be no need for economize. But because other is scarce, then there is need to do what? To economize. So that is all about the scarcity. So in an exam, ukipata wamekwambia you explain about scarcity, wamekupatia 10 marks, then make sure you define what is scarcity. Then you state the problem of scarcity. Then you state the fundamental question. Hapo upata wamekwambia you define the term scarcity or write the notes on scarcity, na wamekwambia 6 marks. Then jua tu anakwambia you define the word scarcity and you give the fundamental problem in short. Anyway, so that is the first economic problem, that is the scarcity. Tumebakisha ngapi? We have the choice, scale of preference, and we have opportunity cost, and we have the PPCs. You come out, what is the time? 8:02. We are supposed to finish at 8:30. I think we have like 28 minutes. I think the class was supposed to go up to 8:30. Let me see. Yes. So let us see if we can do at least 1 or 2. Then tomorrow, I think tomorrow we shall also have another class. I want to finish this topic 1 because of Jamariza. We are supposed to do economic systems. So economic system is the last subtopic for topic 1. So we need to do economic system so that we can start with the demand and supply anyway. So let us talk about the choices. Choice. So let us continue with the economic problems, basic economic problems. Let us continue. So number 1 was scarcity. Tumemaliza scarcity. So number 2 is the choice. Choice. Sijui kama ni visible, but I hope it is visible. Choice. So choice becomes necessary as a result of scarcity. So we can write choices becomes necessary. Choices become necessary as a result of scarcity. Hiyo ni kweli. Hiyo nao hapo hajadanganya. We need to make choices kwa sababu resources ni kidogo. So we need to pick the most important choices or the most important things to do. And that is where the choices comes in. So the choices becomes necessary because of the issue of scarcity. And remember, kama the issue of scarcity haingekuwa, kumaanisha kama resources zingekuwa ni abundant in nature, the aspect of choice haingekuwa. Also, you need to remember that one. So the aspect of choice comes in because of the issue of scarcity. And then so we can also write this one. This one is very important. Making a choice implies giving up, implies giving up something in order to achieve something. In order to achieve. So making a choice implies giving up something in order to achieve something. So when we talk about choice, we are saying we need to give up something in order to achieve something. So this one is very important also. You can also add this one. So the concept of choice relates to the three economic agents. So number one, so kwa example wanaweza kwambia you give any, define any three economic agent. So mtu mmoja atupia haraka haraka, hata kama ni kwa comment haraka haraka, mtu mmoja ashout one of the economic agents. So an example, for example, asimu sasa kwa exam amekwambia give any, ama not give, define any three economic agent in an economy. Mtu mmoja atujaribie. So tunasema the concept of choices relates to three economic agents. So someone to give me the three economic agents. Okay, number one is an individual. And how does an individual relates to the need? And how does an individual relates to choices? Now, an individual relates to choices in this manner. This person need to know what amount of goods he or she needs in order to satisfy their want. That one is, so you need to choose the kind of goods to consume in order to satisfy their want. So we can say so he or she must choose type of goods and services, type of goods and services between present and future consumption, between present and future consumption, between present and future consumption, because of his or her limited in money income. In order to satisfy their need. So in an example, you do what? You explain the concept of choices as it relates to the economic agent, number one. So inakwanga watatu. So number one, tunasema an individual, and unaweza sema he or she must choose the type of goods and service between now and in the future consumption because money is limited in order to satisfy their need. That one is number one. So anafaa chukue your bundle of good or that basket of good that is within his budget, and at the same time that good which will maximize their utility or their want. Number two, we have farm. So a farm. So a farm is also an economic agent. So an example of state any three economic agent: number one, individual; number two, farm; number three, government. So let's go to farm. And to say, man. So remember, for a farm is to produce. So a farm need to choose that input within their budget to produce a particular output, because the farm is there to produce and not to consume. So the farm is not consuming, it's producing. So we can say a farm must choose. A farm must choose what to produce, what to produce, how to produce, how to produce within a constraint imposed by limited resources. That one is correct. So a farm must do what? Must choose what to produce. So a farm must choose what to produce and how to produce within the constraint imposed, within the constraint imposed by the limited resource. So the farm must produce with the resource that they have. So they need to do what? To choose what to produce and by how much to produce, given that the resource are limited, And then the last one is the government. So the government as the last agent. So the government as the last agent, so that as the last economic agent, and you can see. So, so for government, they are there to decide within their capacity, within the amount when you are correct from the people, what goods and service they should provide to the people. So the essential services, so they need to choose on the most essential service to provide to the people, given that the resources are scarce. So is it to build roads? Is it to focus on agriculture? So which kind of goods or service should the government offer, given that the resources are scarce? So let us write. So they must decide. So they must decide. So they must decide what public goods, so they must decide what public goods and service to provide. So they must decide on what. So the government must decide on what public goods and service to provide for the people. Given its limited revenue. It's limited. So given its limited revenue, as projected by the budget documents, as projected by government budget. Okay, that is all about the choices. So that is all about the choices. So we shall start tomorrow. So that class is ending now. So tomorrow we shall start from the scale of preference as a basic economic problem. Then we go to opportunity cost as also a basic economic problem. Then we go to PPC, production possibility curve, as also an economic problem. Then we introduce also economic system tomorrow. Economic system. So in the economic system, we shall talk about the capitalism, that is the free market. And then we shall talk about socialism, That is the central planned economy. So the socialism is the central planned economy. Then we shall also talk about the mixed economy. So the mixed economy mostly is the combination of capitalism and socialism. And then tutamalizia na gani? Tutamalizia na methodology of economics as the last part in topic 1. So tomorrow we shall conclude with the methodology of economics. That is economics as scientific method and economics as a theory. And then so that by weekend, I think weekend also we shall plan for a class. We can come out or free within the day, up somewhere. We introduce chapter 2, price system. So price system is where price is determined through forces of demand and supply. And up to that point, I think we are fine and you are good to go. Good night until tomorrow. Have a wonderful night.